Welcome to Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I'm your guide and host through the show. And today we are talking with a return guest, one of our favorite guests that we are so excited to have back, Danny Brown. I want to tell you more about Danny in case you missed the first time.
Your favorite guest, let's just say your favorite. Come on.
My absolute favorite guest. Danny Brown is a Beverly Hills-based luxury real estate advisor. He has over 24 years of experience. He represents the ultra-high net worth crowd, family offices, high-profile clients across Los Angeles and nationwide. He's closed over 500 transactions, totaling more than $1.2 billion in volume, with a focus on the West Side markets, including Beverly Hills, Bel Air, Brentwood, Santa Monica, Pacific Palisades, among others. Danny was also the host of his own show, which is called The Deal with Danny Brown, which was an amazing podcast, award-winning podcast, streamed in over 120 countries, and he might be launching a new one soon. But he was interviewing top performers across real estate and businesses. He's known for discretion, relationship-first approach, and long-term client strategy. He's been featured in major publications, including The Real Deal, Inman, and Los Angeles Times. His philosophy centers around consistent performance, trust, and delivering results at the highest level. I encourage everybody to follow him on Instagram, Danny Brown LA. We will have a link to that in our show notes. Danny, good to see you again.
What's going on, DJ? Thank you for that generous intro. Appreciate it.
I'm so excited to talk to you because you play at such a different level than so many agents, and it's a very competitive space, and you are a very well-trusted person within that space. And I'm excited to talk a little bit more about some of your ways in which you establish good relationships with your clients and with other agents. So I know that your mentor, David Offer, had taught you early on, give people honest, sound advice every day. Don't chase the deal. And that sounds great as a philosophy, but in a city where agents are fighting over every listing, how does that actually play out when there's a $35 million property on the line?
Whew. Stakes are high when you say it like that. I'm sweating just thinking about it. Look, doing the right thing is always where I start from. That's the North Star. And it doesn't matter if it's a $35 million negotiation or a $30,000 negotiation. It's all about doing the right thing for your client and always putting their best interest first. And believe it or not, sometimes that creates friction between my clients and I, because they want to go in a different direction, and I will give the advice if I really am if really confident in that they're making a big mistake. I think, look, from my experience, I think you are making a mistake doing it this way. Ultimately, it's your decision. And if that's the way we're going, I will do my best to package it and create a narrative around what you want to do to try to get us there. But I would try A, B, and C approach based on hundreds of hours or thousands of hours of transactions. And this. So that said, look, I can't worry about the price tag and the commission at the end of the deal. It's always do the right thing, because your reputation takes your lifetime to build, and you can blow it all in 30 seconds or one conversation or one transaction. So have I lost some deals, or did I make less money? Probably often, but I've opted for that. I've opted to play the long game. That was something that was my natural instinct, and it's something that David Offer and David Ravitz, who was his partner, that's what all I saw. My first 10, 15 years in the business, they were their office. I was out front of their office first, and then I was in the office next to them, and it was pounded into my head. That's how you do it, and ignore the noise and ignore what other people are saying and doing. And this is a ruthless, cutthroat, eat what you kill business. And there's a lot of agents and people that don't subscribe to that mentality, and that's fine. But that's what's worked for me. That's what's felt right, and that's what I've always done.
Yeah, and
I'm sticking to it, DJ.
Good. Well, it's worked for you, and it seems to be the ethical and honest approach is always, I think, obviously the best long term strategy. And you are a living proof. So you've said in this business that you'll do deals with agents multiple times a year, but
Yeah.
you might only transact with a client, every 5, 7 years, and it's really counterintuitive, sort of way to invest your relationship energy, right? Because really
Yeah.
you're spending more time with agents than you are clients. And how do you actually structure your time and attention around sort of that insight?
Whew, so I don't know. That's a profound way to put it. For, boy, had a little technical glitch
You're
there, but
good.
I'm back. I would say that, look, yes, the agents are going to be in the business 10, 20, 30, 40 years together with you and with me. So I want to make sure that I'm always doing the right thing by agents, that I'm always protecting the agent's best interests in the deal, even if I'm on the other side of the deal. Because you know what? I need those agents and they need me. And I can't tell you how critical that is to building a career and sustaining a career. It means you're going to win in multiple offers because they trust you and like you. It means they're going to share off market opportunities because they know you're not going around them and they know you'll get a deal done. So, first of all, that's how important it is critical. The question of how do I break down my time? I mean, look, we have to be in front of clients. That is the only way that we can generate revenue. So I do try to spend, I have a blocked schedule. Not that it's 100% concrete. I'm not super anal. I know there's a lot of flexibility within that block schedule. But my morning, I try to block out an hour of my prospecting time with clients, which is setting up lunches, dinners, breakfasts, drop bys, or it could just be a call or a text. So I do that every day. I've been doing that every day, for 20 plus years. Do I not get to it every day? Some days, certainly. I try to get right back on the horse and ride if I miss. So that's what I do for the clients. And then with the agents, I'm in networking groups and I'm also doing lunches and coffees with agents. And we're also, as hanging out, seeing each other at Little League and in the community because, you know, they say it's an 80-20 rule about who does the business, but I really think it's a 199% rule.
Yeah.
It's like 1% of the agents are doing 99% of the business, especially in LA and LA's West Side and the Brentwood, Beverly Hills, Pacific Palisades, where I move. It's the same people, and you see them a lot, and you do cross over. There's plenty of people. They're coaching with you at Little League, or they're out coaching the other team, and you're seeing each other at friends and clients parties and bar mitzvahs and weddings, and so, and then I do have intentional network groups where we're meeting and having group lunches or group breakfasts once a month, sometimes more, to share information and trends and inventory. So yeah, as important as it is to prospect, because you can't survive without it, is equally as important to have really strong, trusted relationships with agents.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. Um, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And thank you for sharing that. So you represent ultra high net worth individuals. We're talking about family offices, people who are used to really having the best or getting the best experience with their service providers. So what does the intake process look like when a new ultra high net worth client comes to you? Is there a trust building phase because lots of people are nipping at the heels of those people? Or at that level, do they already know what they want? They just need execution. Like, how does it work when a new ultra high net worth person comes into your circle?
Sure. Well, first of all, it depends. It's happened a lot of different ways. Uh, Most of it is long-term relationship building and overlap relationships because these advisors, these people that are the key holders to these family offices and such, are very protective of those clients, as they should be. So many times they have to meet me in variety of different ways and scenarios through various different people. And it's a natural, for the most part, becomes a natural relationship building process. And I've built relationships over 25 years, and I'm still in the process of building relationships with some of these advisors that I've never transacted with or that I want to do more transactions with. So it's just like any other it's like any other relationship building. Sometimes, your reputation precedes you, and someone they know and trust has recommended me highly. And it's an interview process like any seller. And like, you've been recommended and referred to us highly. We know you're about this. We know your stuff. And, we want you to execute this. Or it's, the interview process. We're looking at meeting with you and a couple others at your level. And so it's usually, those are the two most common.
And you have to serve often a lot of different masters, right? Because there
Oh,
are
yeah.
business managers, there may be a financial people, attorneys,
Correct.
accountants. There may be a group that surrounds
The
individual.
entourage. Yes.
And it's, boy, it is that is a skill set of interpersonal effectiveness that I imagine building rapport with each of those people and
Yes.
and all those different personality types, that has got to be a challenge.
Yeah, there's no manual for that. There's no checklist for how do you make that happen. How do you deal with the business, the whole business layer of advisors that are the brightest and the best from Stanford and Harvard, and dealing with, the top Fortune 500 type C-level intenseness. And there's multiple people, and sometimes the people within the camp have different viewpoints. So
Sure.
trying to balance their needs out. Then you have the client who has their needs, and then you have the personal entourage, maybe not the formal advisors, but it's the girlfriend, the boyfriend,
Who's in their ear? Yeah.
yeah, the best friend, the manager, the assistant, the designer, the this or that. So that would be, I say, the when people say, well, what's the big difference between working with ultra high net worth or celebrity or CEO versus the typical buyer, like, that's the big difference, right? It's that there's multiple people involved. Now, also, I'll make a point. I'm not Kurt Rappaport. For those who don't know, Kurt Rappaport would be the guy that can really tell you, because all he does is work with the 1,000 billionaires, that exist. I do work with them, and I have some of that, but I work with just as much or more regular family offices. They're not like big high profile, but they're really well off families, and it's also plenty of doctors and lawyers and some business owners and people that you wouldn't say are they're not billionaires. So I work with everybody, but the big difference is the team and the entourage. Yeah, other than that, you're still working from my North Star, which is give sound advice. You always be in the client's best interest, and always be authentic and give them an opinion, even if they don't like it. And then ultimately, what do they want? And then go out and advocate for whatever they want, even if it's something that I know is going to, we're going to crash into that iceberg either way. If that's what you want, I'll try to soften the crash as much as we can. But those are the two big differences of, that rarefied air, which there isn't that many. There's over 2,000 or 3,000 billionaires in the entire world, and they're not all in Beverly Hills and Brentwood. So it's very few of those people. It's most of the people are, everyday people, everyday millionaires.
It's funny too, with people that have a staff that you have to, work with. You probably could, even if you wanted to try to slip something by or pretend that you have a skill that you didn't have, that would be snuffed out pretty quick, I would imagine, by these people.
Yeah.
This is all people playing at a very high level. They know high execution, and obviously you're the guy that can do it.
Yeah, you got to know your shit. I mean, you got to know the market inside and out. You got to know the comps inside and out. You got to know the contract. You got to know the disclosures, the inspectors, and you got to know the construction. You got to know the design. Yes, you got to be able to wear a lot of hats at a high level just to be in the room. But that said, there's topics that come up where I'm not the expert, and I'm not going to weigh in on, and I'm not going to give you your accounting and tax defer plan on this. Like, no, let's bring in your accountant. I'm not going to step in that mess. That's not my.
Right.
I'll stay in my lane. The lane is wide just because of what we do. We wear a lot of hats, and I've had to get educated on all these different parts of our business. But yeah, they can sniff it out pretty quick if you're not at that level.
So you were at Prudential for a long time, I think 14 years or so. Then you went to the agency and now you're Compass. And each move was obviously very deliberate. And a lot of our listeners, they agonize over what brokerage to join. Should I leave? Is the grass greener? At your level, what actually matters with a brokerage? Like, and what doesn't matter? I mean, you are the brand, of course. You're the person. Your clients trust you. How relevant is it to the client that you
Sure.
are a Compass agent?
Sure. So it depends. Again, all this depends. There's many variations and variables. There isn't a one size fit all.
Sure.
And what matters to me may not matter as much to agent ABC or XYZ who want different things. Look, I think that uh, depending on what type of agent you are and what type of personality you have and where you fit in your market and your local area, you're going to know the top 3 to 5 brokerages, small boutiques or big and everything in between that are most likely a fit for you. You're not going to know for sure. So once you know that, then it's just really a matter of getting to know people, and that's relationships. And even if you feel like you're getting to know people, it's not bulletproof. You don't really know, until you're working at a company, you're not going to know everything about it, the culture, but you get a sense of what the culture's like, what the leadership's like, what the management's like, what the agents are like, what the branding's like. So it's all out there because I'm getting the marketing from my competitors. A lot of them are my friends, and they're getting my mark. We're seeing what people do, and we know the personality types. So it doesn't matter to my clients. If you asked 100 of them, I'm thinking no one's going to say if Danny switches to Coldwell Banker or Sotheby's that we're out. We're staying at Compass. I think once you're at a certain level of trust, your clients are with you. I'm sure there's exceptions, right?
Sure.
But in general, they're going where I'm going. And then it's a matter of, for me, who I am and what I want and where I feel comfortable. And there is no perfect solution. I bet there's a half dozen brokerages that I could be at right now that I would align with and be happy with. And
Sure.
you know what? The way I look at it, some would be better at certain things and some would be worse at better things. And if you add up all the pluses and minuses, it's probably pretty equal for the most part, unless you are indexing very deeply on one specific thing, and that one specific thing is what that brokerage does. Then okay, that probably makes sense to explore that. So that's how I've always looked at it.
Yeah, you're so self-sufficient that wherever there are needs that you and your team have, you say, okay, well, that's what I would leverage the firm for, and you go looking for that versus maybe brand is less important, just fitting, whatever needs you particularly have, because you of course are the brand. So that
Correct.
makes
We are
perfect
all
sense.
we are all the brand. Now, if you're a brand new agent or don't have a big name or uh, you know, then it may be a little different. I also tell people, just to spin this a little other direction, while you're building your business, which we're always building. I'm still building my business. Of course, I want to be double, triple. There's Kurt Rappaport. Until I get past Kurt Rappaport, I haven't done it. So I have a long way to go. But I say, look, if there's a great agent to mentor you, team or just one person or a manager to mentor you, that's as valuable as anything.
Yep.
And I don't care if they're at Banana Realty or Paris Realty or Compass or it's the human being that's going to invest in you. That's going to have the most impact. So I would always tell agents, that are looking to build their business, like look for the human, not the brand.
Yes.
It's not like a brand's going to save you and make you or break you.
Yeah, I agreed. So you've been at this for 24 years, I think.
2002, I got my license. 2001, I started as a sort of a part-time assistant floater. Yeah, in 2002, I got my license, and I don't know where the time went, DJ. What happened?
Well,
I'm gray. It wasn't gray. Probably the last time I spoke to you 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't have gray. This is
well, there
since
had
ULA
to be
tax came to LA and interest rates went up,
the
and now
stress
I'm
in
gray.
LA. There
Yeah,
had to
5
be a
years of that.
deal. there had to be a deal, maybe it was early on, maybe more even recently, where you've made, like, of course, you're human, you make mistakes, everybody does. And a mistake that really cost you money or cost you a relationship. I would love to
Mm.
hear a mistake that you've made, because we want to, it's not all wine and roses. You work very hard. Everybody learns from their mistakes. Share with us something that you did, and learned from, and that made you a better realtor.
Man, there. First of all, mistakes are made at some level. You're constantly making mistakes, and you're constantly learning new things. Right? That's just the way this business is. There's so many nuances and variables, and so it's like an infinite amount of information. You can never be the expert. I feel like I'm as expert as anybody on the planet, and then I just know there's an infinite amount of information that's going to be coming at me where it's gonna be like, whoa, I better learn this. And I don't just mean AI and technology. I just mean like nuances of the nuance. Like there's so there's that. So mistakes, there's so many, and I haven't really thought about that, but I'll tell you multiple times, and I've kicked myself, and I'll use this because it's painful. Not getting buyer representation agreements signed, and
Uh,
uh, thinking that the relationship is good enough, or thinking that this client would be turned off if I push it at this point. It's not the right timing, and then sure enough, something twists or turns, and they go direct and do something. So this was even more specific. I had shown a super high end client that was referred to me by a super high end advisor, an attorney that represents family offices, and I had represented that attorney's other clients very well. And he's like, you know what, this is a new client. I can't really, but I want you to try to, I think you're the right person. You should work with them. So I start working with them, and it's unfortunately, it happened to be that the husband's overseas and the wife was here doing the search, and I didn't get anything signed because the lawyer was involved. I thought I was fine, and we looked at something, started negotiating after a while on something, and uh, the negotiation at that point was verbal, which doesn't happen that often, but sometimes at the high end, it was $30 million house, or that was a super high, big sale. We started verbally discussing, and because it was on the market a while and overpriced, and before you know it, you know, okay, everything stopped. We went back 4 or 5 times. She was leaving town and going overseas, and we were going to pick it up. And when they got back to town in a week or two, of course, they went dark in a week or two, and then went dark for 4 weeks. And now I get a hold of the lawyer, and he says, "Yeah, I've got bad news. Unfortunately, the husband had some pre-existing relationship from years ago and felt obligated. They've gone on, they're under contract on that house that you were negotiating on." And he felt
oh,
terrible. He's like, "I feel terrible. I feel heartbroken. I know how this feels." I'm like, look, first of all, you referred me to the client. Don't feel guilty and feel like, you shouldn't be referring me business unless it's a slam dunk. I'm okay taking risks, but I made the mistake of not getting a buyer broker representation signed. Even if I got it signed for 1%, that would have been a big commission. But if I got it for 2 or 2.5, 3, it would have been a huge commission. So I got burned. This is 4 years ago. This wasn't a
wow.
long time ago. I know better. And look, by the way, I do it all the time, and it works out 90%, 5% of the time. But there are those times where things happen. You're like, how did I not get the paperwork buttoned up? What was I thinking? Why did I take the risk? So that's the first thing that comes to mind. There's so many other types of different mistakes that have happened. God, a lot of times, I'll tell you another one. Uh, Not putting the conversation I had with the client into a text or email confirming what was said. And I'm
Oh,
usually
sure.
really anal and good about that. I'm usually really good about, oh, we just had an important conversation. Let me document this with file. Per our conversation, you said you weren't not interested in bringing out a mold inspector to look at the leak in the, and I've suggested you should. And so this was a crazy escrow, and one of the craziest things, that probably the number one craziest in a bad way that happened. Uh, but it was a situation where my buyer bought a house. It was a full remodel. It wasn't a new house. but it was a remodel that was gorgeous. It was in Beverly Hills, and throughout the process, we kept asking for the sign off because it looked done, the C of O, the final permit, and it went back and forth 100 times with them sending us all this different reports and documentation, but none of it was the C of O, and none of it was the final sign off. But it was heavy handed. Look, you idiots, here's everything. Why are you guys not removing your conditions and moving forward? And my client and I had the conversation multiple times. I'm like, look, they can say what they want, but there's no final sign off here. So I can't tell you in good conscience to move forward. Ended up that I did have some emails, so I was covered, but it got ugly. It became an arbitration and lawsuit because they never did come up with the permits. My client ended up buying that property, and it was very complicated how it went down. And I was covered. I had emails saying, there's no C of O. You should talk to a lawyer. But it reminded me, like, oh my God, how important this is. Because if I didn't document it, and I should have documented it more, and I did, it's like you could get so burned because 3 years down the line or 5 years down the line at arbitration, if I didn't have that, who's to say? It's their word against my word. So that mistake of like making sure you're very thorough about documenting important, critical legal liability conversations into emails is as weird or stupid as it might sound to have to go, we just got off the phone, I'm confirming. You feel like, I shouldn't do that. It's obvious. They know, no, but you need to do that. You need to do that.
Yeah, people don't always play fair, and people don't always play with the same rule set, right? So, but I want to go back to the buyer broker agreement because I really appreciate you sharing that, and I'm sorry that happened to you. And what a learning experience. We all go through it, but the NAR settlement really has changed this, and I'm curious how it's changed for you with buyers. So you operate in a market where commissions could be 6-7 figures. How has the settlement changed the way you structure deals, or has it not? Is it really still business as usual, or are things different today?
So I feel like it's all ado about nothing. And commissions are still the same. Buyers and sellers, and I've always negotiated and grinded for commissions. And if you get to the higher price points, it's almost always a discounted commission. And it's still a huge commission, and we've accepted that. That was the case before the settlement. That's the case now. What I would say is it's much easier as an agent, because it's the rule, to just say, hey, I need this sign. I'm not even allowed to show you a house unless this is signed, right? So that said, I'm not always doing it. I'm lazy about it. I feel like I've, the trust, again, the mistake, I've made the mistake. I still do it. I have enough trust. I'm not going to do it. I'll do it when I need to. These people aren't going to burn me. So I'll probably get burned again, right? Because I don't do it every time. I've done it a lot, and I will do it when it's a new relationship or someone that I don't have a deep connection. So in theory, it really makes our job as a buyer agent easier in terms of getting protection, because all I need to say is the truth, which is this is now the new rule. I'm not allowed to even show you a property unless we've agreed to something. And that even could be just that I'm representing you on this one property, which, by the way, happens a lot. Like, hey, I'm just going to represent you on these. We'll do it each time. Because buyers are still hesitant to go exclusive.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
They still are. They still are. Now, a lot of the clients I work with are totally fine. Like, yeah, of course, pot, you bring off market, you bring this. But there's those other buyers that are so used to the old way that, like, you might have almost every pocket, but what if there's some random pocket that no one knows about? And then, they want to be able to have that freedom.
You run a really lean operation. So it's basically, it's you and a director of operations, and you don't have a giant team.
No. So I'm the anti-team. I'm what they call now a solo agent. I didn't know they didn't have that name 25 years ago. I modeled myself, David Offer had it that way. Larry Young, who's another, incredible, iconic agent it was a mentor of mine. That's how they always have done it. So I have a director of operations, an assistant. I do have a TC as well, and I do have social media now, a more marketing, social media, branding person uh, in the background. But in terms of agents, producing agents, it's me, and I do have a showing agent, and sometimes it's gone to 2 or 3 or 4 agents on the team, but it's never been more than 3 or 4 at a time, and it's usually just one. And my feeling with the teams is when Sally Forster Jones and Tomer and Aaron Kerman, they've all been in my office. They're next to me, and they have the model, and they're obviously, they have their model is it's basically their own brokerage within Compass or within
Sure.
Christie's, and they have 100 people on their team, and I see it up close. But I know the 100 people on the teams, and there's in and outs, and there's usually only 2 or 3 that are producing a decent amount of production. Uh, Very rarely is it more than a couple people, and generally within 5 years, those people build their business and they move on. So I'm not usually looking for that. I just like to stay lean and mean. And if there's a talented person that I can mentor and can help me with showings, because I do need the show, I'm good. I mean, I can handle a lot of business. And I've looked at the P&Es, and I've looked at the profit, the P&Ls, excuse me, and I'm just as profitable as someone that's got a team of 10, 20, 30, 40. Like, for the most part, I mean, I have better years and worse years and things, but I'm like the way the approach that I've taken, and I always saw it with David Offer and Larry Young and a few other people that I tried to mold my business off. And like, yeah, it's okay. My production in the rankings, won't be there. You're not going to see 300 million and 500 and a billion.
Right.
Like, that's not going to happen. And that used to be frustrating. That like, I'm not even on the rankings. Then I realized once I started seeing the P&Ls and the different coaches and other things that work with all of us, like, oh, I'm just as profitable as this person. So I'm good. And then I realized these rankings are ridiculous. What other businesses? I'm number 1. I'm number
Right.
10. I
Doctors
made
don't do
$10
that.
billion.
Yeah.
Like, what business does that anyways? It's so tasteless. So I've gotten to the point where like, I don't even want to get involved with that. Let me focus on doing good work for my clients and being profitable. And if there's something or somebody that adds value to me as that I want to bring in, great. Or if there's someone I think I could mentor, it would be a fulfilling back and forth relationship. Awesome. I do that for sure, because I like coaching and mentoring. But that's me. That's my view. I'm not about the ego and the numbers. And I chase a lot. Our business gets a lot into that, like chasing those rankings. It's like, well, this isn't the NCAA. There's no national championship. Who ranked number 1, 2, 20? Like, great. What are we talking about here? So anyway,
You're
probably
a boots-
not. It's probably not the popular view, but that's my view.
Yeah, you like to work direct.
That's it. And like Kurt Rappaport's the same way. Like, no one's making more money than Kurt Rappaport. He doesn't have a team of 30. It's just Kurt and his support staff. Or Chris Cortazzo and Malibu, same thing. These guys are in a whole different world in terms of how much business they do, and they don't have 30 people agents. They have their incredible administrative support staff, and they might have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those people. But if they can do it that way, I'm happy to try to catch them doing it that way.
Let's give some practical advice for our listeners. So if an agent is listening right now and they want to move up market, maybe they're let's say they sell $500,000 homes, but they want to go to that next tier of like $2 to $5 million properties. What are the first things they should start thinking about? How do you move from one tier to another?
So it's very complex. There's no one right answer. The way I did it, which may not be for everyone. First of all, there's different ways. If you're surrounded by the exceptions, if you come into the business and you're new to the business and you're surrounded by a wealthy network that trusts you and give you business, you could be at that high level immediately. So that's the exception. If you have a big reality TV show or something like
Sure.
that, you can do it as well. If you're not one of those two things and you're the typical person that, like me, the way I did it, I mean, I started with going to parts of LA 25 years ago that I didn't know, and I grew up in LA, and I'm deep parts of Granada Hills or East LA, this and that, and 200,000, 300,000, really for LA, low price points. And I did that because that's all I could get and do. I hustled my way up brick by brick. Then I got to 500,000. Then I started thinking I'll focus on condos in LA, which were 500,000 to a million, because I was younger and I thought that would be my best odds of gaining trust and gaining clients. And I started mailing and emailing a list of the condo areas, specifically Brentwood, Santa Monica, Westwood. And that worked for like 5 or 6 years. And then my condo, I started getting one listing. And then 6 months later, maybe I get another. Then a year later, I get two listings. It took a long time. But eventually, I became the condo guy, the condo king. And then those condo people would say, hey, I want to sell. So now they're selling for $1 million and they wanted to buy it $2.5 million. And so now $2.5 million. And 3 to 5 years later, some of those $2.5 million, they want to buy a $5 million. So that's how I did it, and still am doing it, over 25 years. And I'm not saying that's the only way, but that's one way. I think the other way is, being really intentional and saying, okay, where, if I want to be in a whatever $2, $3, $4 million price point, whatever it is, in every city it's different. I want to be in a higher price point. Okay, I better go know that inventory. So start seeing everything you can. Start creating relationships with the agents that are in that run in that circle, because they have the pockets and the information. Try to do open houses. I did open houses every weekend for years. I mean, that's the hugest thing. I said, get your signs and your open house signs out for every agent you could reach out to. Not your listings. You're going out to productive agents that are doing those things in those areas, who may have want someone to cover it, and you hit it and you do it with passion and knowledge, and bring stuff that you're there for business. You're not there to yawn and look at your phone. You have the comps, you have pockets, off markets, you have other things that are open, other things, whatever you have, you're armed with ammunition. So that's a huge thing that I would do. I would attack by getting relationships with agents and trying to get into those open houses for them. And it takes time. It takes time. And if you get a listing, you get lucky enough, you're trying to get that first listing, you got to invest. You can't be afraid to say, oh, well, I just got this $20,000 commission and I'm in debts and this and that. You have to break out a chunk of that to invest to get your next one. And I'm not saying that direct mail or ads or digital, there's a variety of ways to market, and everybody's market is different, and everybody's appetite for what they do well is different. But you got to commit to try to get that next listing. And when you're getting the next listing, again, you double down, you triple down, you're reinvesting. And that's what I did. At the time, 20 years ago, or 20 plus years, I was reinvesting in direct mail and targeting these condos in very specific areas. And then I narrowed it down, even the new buildings, and narrowed it down. Then it starts compounding, and you become one of the players. And that's I think a good way to do it. It's not the only way, but that sure is a good way.
Well, that actually leads me right into this next question, that all about controllables, because I know that the best advice you said you ever received was around focus on the controllables and the process, not results. So this reminds me of John Wooden, the coach of the NCAA Bruins.
Best coach of all time, right?
One of the winningest coach. I think he's still the NCAA winningest coach of all time. He won something like 7 NCAA championships in a row, I think, and then 9 of like 11. And he never looked at the scoreboard, which is famously, he said, that does not tell me how my team is doing. So he didn't look at results. He leaned into like the shoveling coal, the leaning, the hard stuff. And so you are in that same vein. So I want to talk about leaning into the hard stuff.
Easy to do when you have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jamal Wilkes, and Marcus Johnson, and all these guys in your lineup.
Well,
I don't need to look at the scoreboard. We're up by 50. It doesn't matter. Easy to say for them. And I'm honored to even be brought up in the same breath as John Wooden. And one of my favorite things that I've always studied as a kid, my dad gave to me when I was younger, is the John Wooden pyramid. People say,
oh yes, that's right.
Well, I've read books and studied that pyramid in and out. So that's a really important ethos for living a good, disciplined life.
Practice, practice, practice. Yeah.
Hmm.
So what does practice look like for you? What does leaning into the hard look like on a
Oh,
Tuesday morning, let's say, when you, like all the rest of us, don't feel like doing the hard stuff? What are you leaning into?
I mean, usually the hard for me, and everyone's different, but the hard for me is okay if there's a confrontational conversation that needs to happen, or a conversation that's, I got to deliver the bad news, or I know I'm going to get bad news delivered and I'm putting it off because I know I didn't get that listing, or he's been blowing me off, or I can tell. But so it's that feeling like, oh, I'd rather just not. I'd rather just do it later. For me, that comes up a lot when I get that. I want to put it off. I don't want to deal with the hard. I try to lean in, like, you know what, get it over with. Pick up the phone,
Yeah.
and get it over with. And half the time it's better than I thought. So,
It's a good point.
and then half the time it's what you expect. Like, okay, at least I got it over with. I didn't have to ruminate. I didn't have to have it lean on me. So that's one of the lean into the hard things. And there's lots of things. There's the, man, I have this event or a networking thing, or stop by and I know I should do it. And now it's 6 o'clock after a long day, after I've been up since 6 and dealing it. I'm like, oh man, it'd be nice just to go home and see the kids and watch the Dodgers and blow this thing off. And I'm sitting talking to myself, I'm like, no, I need to be there. That's a friend, a client, and there's other people, like, I just need to do it. And then I go do it. And I'm like, I'm glad I did it. That I'm glad that I leaned into that hard. So that's another example for me, at least, of doing the things that you don't always want to do, but it's the right thing. And if it's the thing that's going to help me get where I need to go based on what I say my values or goals are, and I need to lean in and embrace it. Again, it could be the gym, like, oh, I'm blowing off
Oh,
the gym, but
I hear you.
that's a common one. And like, just go, and this is the den there, my stuff that just go. Even if I work out for 10 minutes, and then you go and you're there, and then you always work out for at least 30 minutes, if not an hour. So
Yeah.
that's another example. So those are all the different things. There's so many of it. It comes up a lot. There is a lot of rejection and disappointment and stress and exhaustion and burnout
Sure.
that we deal with. So, figuring out how to balance that all out, and how to lean into the hard to get things done, even when you're not feeling optimized or enthusiastic about it, it's really important.
It's really the most important skill, right? It's this idea of getting myself to do the thing that I know I should do, and I don't want to do,
Yeah,
that I need to do, but I could easily not do. It's like
correct.
it's this, and getting yourself to just do the thing that is the right thing to do. I want to talk about you
It's
coming
a
from the
sport, it
music.
is a sports mentality, like John
Yes.
Wood. I grew up sports, and that was a big part of my life through my early 20s until I got into the business world, and I just kind of transferred that mindset. And then, not perfect by far. I could do a lot. I could lean into more hard. I need to lean into more hard and embrace it.
Yeah, well, you're right. It's how we grow. It's the boulder that falls down the mountain every night, and that we
Oh
have
yeah,
to wake up in the morning and go, oh, I guess I push it back up the mountain.
yeah.
And that's the story of Sisyphus.
Jesus.
Well, you came from the music industry, and
Yes,
you were with Interscope. You worked. You were A&R guy under Jimmy Iovine. I was Iovine, or I never knew.
I mean, but not exactly that. That sounds great though, but that wasn't exactly. I was an intern at Interscope in college. That was my first sort of like real internship, and it was Tom Wally and Jimmy Iovine. Dr. Dre just signed a deal there and was walking through the office, so I loved it. That's where I started. I started working for free as an intern. I came out of SC thinking I was a hot shot, and I thought, give me 5 years, I'm going to be head of A&R and running record labels, because I really knew my stuff. I was out looking at bands every night and trying to find groups and help them this and that. So I started as an intern, did the mailroom, was an assistant for a long time, did some A&R, did some management. At the end of it, I was on my own. I broke out on my own to try to, manage and produce a few groups, and that's what the transition to real estate. That was part of it. I was thinking, oh, I can make some money. I need to make some money because I'm not making any money in the music business. It's feast or famine, even more than in real estate.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out, well, how do I make money to keep going with these young bands? And I thought real estate, because my best friend and best man at my wedding, David Ravitz, was David Offer's right hand man, and he was my roommate, and they were killing it. And okay, I'll just, can I just do this like you guys, and I'll make some money, and then I'll fund it, and we'll produce a demo, and we'll promote, and we'll go on tour on our own and do it. And I remember David Ravitz was like, man, I cannot in good conscience recommend you get into this business. It's a brutal business. You have to wake up and put on a steel cup every morning because you're going to get bashed. And he said, but if you decided you wanted to do it and you went all in, you're going to be great. You're great with people, and you're a good negotiator, and contracts and creative, and And I was like, I'm just going to go do it and make money and stick with the bands. And that didn't exactly work. The minute I got into the business of real estate, it's like I started working and deals started happening. I think 6 months in, I did a deal, then another deal, and another, and I was getting paychecks when they closed. And that was very different than the experience in music business. You don't always get credit and paid for your work. It's very difficult when you're not a big, powerful executive to get protection in the music business. And I just saw, the writing was on the wall. It's like, as much as I loved what I was doing in music, I didn't love that I was working so hard for so long and had nothing to show for it. And real estate was opposite. It was like, wow, you're getting rewarded. Do the work, get rewarded. Do the work, get rewarded. So that was my transition into real estate back in the early 2000s.
It's amazing, and probably learned a lot about relationships doing in that world as well.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I've always feel that my magic power, if any, I work hard and I study the game, and I know my magic power or whatever has always been being able to relate to all types of people and connect with them on a deep level and have empathy with it. It doesn't matter if I'm with the CEO of Microsoft or Colgate in corporate environment. It doesn't matter if I'm with a 90-year-old grandma who wants to sell her house in Brentwood, and and I'm just speaking to her like she's my grandmother. It doesn't matter if it's some rapper from Compton who's now wants to buy a $10 million house. Oh, there's my dog. I feel like it does, and anything in between. Paul, the president of prime minister of India, whoever it is, I can walk in that room. I can connect with that person, and all walks of life. I thought that's always been something that came natural to me, even before I was in business. Just growing up and being around so many different types of people. Where I grew up in LA and playing sports with so many different types of people, it just was like a natural thing for me to be able to relate to all walks of life. Doesn't matter what type, from the lowest to the highest, and anything in between. So
you hosted a show, the Deal with Danny Brown, which was very successful and streamed all over the world, 120 countries. And I'm curious, as a fellow podcaster, how did that podcast change your business? What was was that a harken back to the days of music? Do you enjoy it? What did that do for you?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Look, what did it do for my business directly? I don't know. I can't quantify that. I got a new client that came from the podcast. That didn't happen. I'm sure I definitely got exposure. I've gotten credibility, and built deeper relationships, built new relationships with top agents around the world and business people.
Sure.
But yes. But for me, it was really a creative itch that I needed to fill. And I really enjoyed it. And I thought about it for 5 years before I finally did it. And, when I started, I did it in 2019, and I officially just ended it at the end of the year, 2025, not because I didn't love it. I set out to do 100 episodes. I did 100 episodes.
You did.
And I probably could do another 100 and keep going, but I'm thinking like, I still have some creatively want to create something new. And I don't even know if it's going to be real estate related. There's a couple different ideas I'm talking about for podcasts, potentially a book, potentially a few different things. But it's really about the creative outlet and being able to connect with different people and trying to share, these special people and these relationships that I've had and these conversations that I have behind closed doors. I thought it would be fun to amplify it and put it out there publicly, and hopefully it inspires somebody, or lights something up for somebody. And if at least for me, it was very satisfying, fulfilling. I enjoyed it, and that, that's how it went down.
Okay, I have one last question for you, and this is it's a question that gets asked. So I apologize for that in advance, but I think it's a really good one because I think you're the right guy to answer this question. So it's going to be one of those: if you woke up tomorrow with all your skills, all the knowledge you have now, but you had no contacts, you had nothing,
Oh no.
no database, no reputation, no Compass. You're not with Compass at this point, nothing. And you had to build a luxury practice from scratch in a competitive market. Maybe it's where you are now, or maybe it's somewhere else.
Oof.
Knowing everything you know now, if we dropped you somewhere else, for example, what would you do in your first 90 days? What would be the sort of first move?
Ooh, that's a painful thought.
I don't mean to stress you out, but
I'm
you,
having a
you know
panic
it.
attack. You know what though? It's not such an unrealistic thought, because there were times in COVID when we were
Yeah.
like, oh, do we move to Dallas? Do we move to Miami? There was a lot of people leaving, and okay, if we do, would I be starting over?
Well,
So
and the fires that just happened,
fires that just happened. So
yeah.
uh, look, what would I do? First, I would decide if I'm going to join somebody that's a team member, be a team member, and eat crow, so to speak, and join a credible luxury agent, so that I can at least be associated with somebody, give up half my commission or whatever I needed to do until I felt like I had a footing. So
Yeah.
that would be one of the first decisions, and I think I would do that. If I didn't do that, I'm just on my own. Then I would just have to decide what approach I'm going to take. I probably would try to build relationships with a few good high-end agents if I didn't join their team, so that I can do open houses if they did them. Sometimes in the high end they don't allow that. I would probably pick a micro market of a couple hundred homes and start hitting it hard with really high-end marketing, and just start investing in a small targeted amount of mailers, but not just generic mailers. I would really try to flip the script and elevate it, so that it's like they've seen nothing, they've never seen anything like it. I would leverage what I've done in the past, my skill set. I would do everything, all of the above. Uh, so
I, you know what I love about you so much is that I just asked you a very difficult question that you did not want to answer, because who wants to answer that question? And you came up with a game plan pretty quickly. You're like, this is what I would do. I would do these 5 things. And what's so amazing about people like yourself, and why I am so honored to talk to you, is you could drop you anywhere, and you've done this, so you could do it again. And you're like, well, if I had to do it all over again, I guess I would. And
it might
I
be
would do it.
fun, like stimulating in some ways.
Well, but I appreciate how you leaned into the hard question, which is like, oh God, I don't want to do this again. Just like we go to the gym and we go, I don't want to do another pull up or push up, but it's a good idea. And so I appreciate how quickly your mind shifted. And I really want our audience to pay attention to notice how quickly Danny went into solution. He went right into, okay, this is what I would do. Now, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun. And I'm not going to enjoy necessarily every moment of this process, but these are the steps. It's that sports mentality. I'm going to go to practice. I'm going to start practicing.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you so much for that answer.
Oh, that's
that
kind.
is wonderful. Here's what I want everybody who's listening to do before the next episode. And this comes from Danny's playbook. I want you to pick 3 agents in your market that you've done deals with before, and I want you to send them a text, not a let me know if you didn't have anything text. But I want to say like, hey, I really liked working with you in the past on that deal. Hope you're having a great week. That's it. Danny, he really just said agent relationships are everything. They're the ones you're going to use. You're going to be interacting with these people more often than the clients, and start investing in those relationships today. Go out of your way to tell an agent who you think is really exceptional that you think they're exceptional. that really, it does go a long way. The next time they see your name on an offer letter for one of their listings, they'd be like, that's a good guy. That's a good woman. That's somebody that really supports the industry and appreciates me. That's what I got today. So that's my little advice for all of
I
our
like that. I like
our
it. Hey, look,
listeners.
it's okay to be friends with agents you compete with. It's probably better to be, better to be friends. You'll help each other. So,
Well, and speaking of that, Danny, where can people find you, follow you, and work with you? Because you
oh,
work with clients from all over. You have clients that have homes in various places, multiple
yes.
homes. You refer business, you get referrals. What's the best way an agent can connect with you?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, like all of us, my micro market, my home market is West Side Los Angeles, Brentwood, Santa Monica, Palisades, Beverly Hills, Westwood. That's where I work. And I deal tons of different luxury markets and pass them back and forth. But you can reach me on Instagram at Danny Brown LA. I always answer DMs. My website's DannyBrownLA.com. I'm on YouTube at Danny Brown Podcast. That's where you'll find the deal and all my market updates. So I'm easy to find. You can track me down. I'm, very responsive, happy to always chat with people, happy to build relationships. And love getting together with you all the time, DJ. We waited too long. There's so much to
I
talk
know.
about. Next time you see me, I'll probably be bald or all white hair. So
I'm starting to lose my hair too, but I need to get out to
you're
the West
looking
Coast.
good. You
I
got that
want to.
California blonde hair going, flowing. You're
Yeah,
looking good.
I'm in a basement in my my duplex down. By the way, for those of you who do not know what a duplex down is, that is a Chicago term that does not
I don't know what that is.
exist outside. It's basically a condo with two levels, one being in the basement, or in this case, for my condo, all of the bedrooms live, which sounds like, ooh, but I'll tell you, it's really cool because I have 11 and a half foot high ceilings with lots of windows. So it's better than it sounds, but I need to get out west where there's a little bit more sunshine and palm trees. And I want to see you and interact with you because you're such a good person. You're a nice person. You're extremely skilled. You don't have an ego. I love so much about how you build your business. You're really an inspiration to so many. And I'm so grateful to have you on the show.
You too.
And so,
you've been one of the most consistent podcasters in the game. So big shout out to
I
you.
appreciate
Very
that.
impressive. You
It's
got
an
a huge
honor
following.
to speak to you on behalf of the audience.
Likewise.
Thank you. On behalf of Danny and myself, thank you to the audience.
Thank you.
Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to everyone who is, by the way, if you want to help support our show, best way you can do it, check out what our sponsors are offering. They have great services, as well as check me out. I am trying a new thing and I want to get everyone's opinion. I am trying to create more value for agents. So go to my Instagram, which is Delphin Paris. You can or Top Agent Interviews. That's our Keeping It Real. I am posting daily videos with 30-second tips from people like Danny on the show. Sometimes it's directly something somebody like Danny would have said on our show. Other times it's an AI automation that I've figured out that agents can use. And check those out. I want to see if those are valuable to you. So just check me out on Instagram. You can find me. Follow Danny on Instagram, Danny Brown.
Follow
LA.
DJ. Follow his content. It's unreal. It's awesome.
Oh, Danny, you're the best. I so grateful to you, and I do want to get together with you in person because I want to shake your hand. One of these days we'll do it. Everyone, we will see you on the next episode. Thanks to everybody. Thanks, Danny.
Good to see you, man. Talk to you soon.